There is a 99.99% chance that you are watching this on a screen. And if you're not, where are you from? Like, tell me your secrets. How are you watching this but not on a screen? That's an achievement. And I'm not counting audio only as watching, that's listening. So don't even give me that argument. The real question is, how do screens work? Because you see this, right? This is white, right? If you look at this, you can see I can hold it up, still white. And the way this works is the opposite to the way this works. This is black. It's close enough to black, it's grey, but let's pretend it's black. So the reason that you can see the colour black is because it absorbs all visible, well, not all visible light, but all frequencies of visible light and doesn't emit any, meaning it looks black. Now, obviously it has to emit some because it's not complete black, but you get the idea. Whereas white does the opposite. It absorbs none of the light and reflects all of it. If we take something like this, right? This remote has multiple colors and there's also a bit more black. This remote has the multiple colors. Now that red, that color absorbs everything apart from red, which it reflects out. But that's not how screens work. You see, screens work by producing their own light. But how do you get the colors, right? You don't have an LED for every single color. If we take this other remote, which is conspicuously similar, you'll see that we have red here, right? It's actually orange, but we can pretend it's red, right? So orangey here, there's some purple text, this bit's silver, and they all work in real life in that similar sense of absorbing everything apart from its color. But your screen only has 3 colors. If you look really closely, let's do a close-up, right? The color white is red, green, and blue, and every other color is just a mixture of red, green, and blue. That's what RGB is. When you're telling your Photoshop or your computer to set something to this RGB value, you're using percentages of red, green, and blue and how bright each one is. Now, usually how this will work is you'll have a massive backlight like this for my camera, but imagine there's a filter in front of it. In fact, there are 3 filters. There's a red one, a green one, and a blue one. Who would have guessed? The idea is these 3 filters block out different amounts of light. And that's how you get an image. You decide how much of each light you want, and going from the white light that's projected free, you just say, okay, take off this much red or take off this much green, and you get your desired color. And that's how you get an image. And images are all well and good, but sometimes you do this, you move, right? I'm moving right now. So how do you get a moving image? And that is where refresh rate comes in. If you think about gaming, that's measured in frames per second, how many images it can physically display in 1 second. And refresh rate is basically that, just in real hardware terms. 60 hertz means that it can change an image 60 times per second, and all that happens is those filters change, and that's all it is. And 144 hertz, that just happens 144 times per second. But sometimes, just sometimes, it has an undesired effect. You'll be recording a screen using your camera, and your camera captures light and interprets it into data in the same way a screen releases light, right? But they're not necessarily on the same wavelength. Not literally, obviously, figuratively. Because if I grab this, you will find that looking at it closely, you can see it kind of flickers a bit. That's odd, isn't it? Like, when you look at a phone normally, it's fine, it doesn't flicker at all. So why is it flickering here? Well, it's partly England's fault, and it's also partly the US's fault, because they use 2 different standards. Well, actually, that's a lie. There are 3 standards, but there are 2 popular ones. PAL, phase alternating line, which is mainly used throughout Europe and the UK, which is actually in Europe, but maybe not for long, because EU referendum. Have you registered to vote yet? Because you definitely should. And that revolves around 25 hertz, or 25 frames a second. Whereas the National Television System Committee, or NTSC revolves around 30 Hertz or 30 frames per second. And this is why whenever you buy a camera that's globally available, it will have options for 24 frames a second, which is what films are traditionally shot in, 25 frames a second for PAL, and 30 frames a second for NTSC. And having those two different frame rates mean that they're changing ever so slightly out of sync with each other, which means that as one is maybe turning down, the other is turning up, and they never quite meet if you picture them as two waves. Instead of kind of meeting when they're both like that, one will be up here, one will be down there, and they're never quite at the right point. Anyway, that's not the point. Most screens have enough pixels in them that at the correct distance, you can't see each individual pixel. That's why phones with a smaller screen will look the same as a TV when you're sat far away from it. If in your field of view they're the same size and the same resolution, they will look the same. But if you get close enough to either of these devices, the pixels will be extremely plain to see. So, just in case you weren't paying attention for the entirety of this video, the point is, your eye sees light by the light that reflects off things, and screens mimic it because your brain is very easy to confuse by just using a mixture of red, green, and blue light. Thanks for getting this far into the video. If you liked it, make sure to hit like. If you didn't, not quite sure why you're watching, and I've been saying this for like a number of months but now, so there's something really wrong here if you're still watching this. If you did like the video though and want to see more like this one, click up here to see the previous video, and click up here to see a random video I haven't picked yet, and I'm not telling you what it is because it would be cheating. Make sure to click below and hit subscribe to get more videos the moment I release them, and I will see you guys next time.